2025 Singapore Grand Prix kicks off what's going to be a very interesting last stretch of 7 races where we have a new title contender potentially entering the picture. Verstappen's won the last 2 races in dominant fashion, putting McLaren on alert, and is just 69 points behind Oscar Piastri, shrinking significantly since the summer break. The Singapore Grand Prix tends to be a slow burner, and it does have a knock for throwing unexpected spanner in the work. So yeah, it's going to be an intriguing one this weekend. For now, Max Verstappen is nothing but an innocent bystander in the title battle between the McLarens. He's still too far behind, and it's not straightforward to close the gap. However, he will be keeping a keen eye on how his Red Bull performs at the race. If the car is strong and he's fighting for the win this weekend, the third wheel might end up becoming the favourite. In the background at Mercedes, there's a certain level of tension that is bubbling. There are just 7 races left after the season, and none of their drivers are signed. The delay is not only a surprise, but hints at disagreements. As the season gets closer to an end, questions will be asked about what's going to happen. And the race in Baku showed how competitive Ferrari has become, and maybe the call to switch car concept last season was a poor one. The wheels have been coming off for a while now, and the Singapore Grand Prix might be the next. I would expect to have a car do well here, considering how it's been competitive in 2023, for example. Unfortunately, the inability to run the car low enough and avoid plank wear is going to be a factor again this weekend. But for the driver that could really go well, it's Max Verstappen. He's dominated the last 2 Grand Prix. He's coming to a Singapore Grand Prix, a track where he's never run. But yeah, I think the expectations will be that he can do it. McLaren's campaign seems to have hit a snag, as the car is dominating pre-summer break. It hasn't been the case post it. So yeah, it'll be an intriguing one this weekend to see how they can do it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting as well, because Norris, even though he didn't have the best weekend at Baku, it does seem like he is slowly sneaking in towards Piastri's advantage. But who will win the race? When it comes to Red Bull, it's still a case of you want to see it first to believe it, and you know that probably leads you to McLaren being favourite. Of course, Norris dominated this race last year, and I think one team in the midfield that could have a good race is Aston Martin. It feels like a sort of weekend that will suit their car, and it's certainly a circuit that Fernando Alonso likes. But for Singapore, it's one of those tracks where Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton both have good tracks, really, so they've had impressive performances before. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Ferrari do have a car and if they can be up there this weekend. Mercedes, though, have often struggled around this circuit, and yeah, at the moment it feels like they're 3rd, 4th fastest with Ferrari, so I think maybe this could be a weekend where they maybe struggle slightly more. It's been an interesting Friday in Singapore. Obviously, the first session, you can't really read too much into it, as evidenced with Fernando Alonso topping the times, although Aston Martin do look strong here. And then in practice too, there were some crashes for the likes of Russell and Lawson, which will be costly for them, but it was Oscar Piastri on top. But yeah, due to the stop-start nature of the session, there wasn't really a huge amount of meaningful running that got done. So yeah, can't really read a huge amount into it, but I think McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull all have shown flashes of pace throughout the weekend. So yeah, could be an interesting one. And before I go, let me run you through my predictions for this weekend. I'm going to say on pole will be Lando Norris, and winning the race will be Lando Norris. Yeah, it just feels like this could be a McLaren sort of track, and Norris, we saw how good he was at this circuit last year. Piastri in second, I don't think he'll probably take it, recovering from that awful weekend in Baku, and a good result. Still have a gap to Norris, and Verstappen in third. I just think the Red Bull will be quick, but probably not quite quick enough to challenge the McLaren this weekend and kind of halt his comeback in the title. So anyway guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share and subscribe. Follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily F1 news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.